Welcome, everybody. And today I have Dee Wagner. She's a licensed professional counselor in Georgia. She's a board certified dance movement therapist. I've known Dee Wagner for, I don't know, maybe 4 years now. And it was great to get to know her and see her training. And she put a training together for us that we provided for quite a while. So Dee has a really good understanding of the impact of technology on people, relationally and emotionally, and how to help people work through trauma and attachment issues. So yeah, Dee, I'm just really glad to have you on here to share with us, insights on the use of technology in practice and its impact on people, especially the therapeutic relationship. So yeah. So where should we start? What?
First of all, we should start by me saying I'm delighted to be here and spend some time with you. I love the work you're doing. I'll tell everyone, when Ray and I first met, I was doing one of his in-person workshops, and I was so struck with how technology is becoming able to mirror the body, that we can use technology for our neuroception. We'll have devices that'll help us become aware of what's happening in our bodies. Mm-hmm. And I jokingly said that passwords drive me crazy. It's like asking the autonomic nervous system to constantly think, well, blink, blink, heartbeat, heartbeat. These things should be autonomic and not have to remember a password for absolute, like if I'm going to blink, I've got to have this password. If I'm going to breathe, I got to have this password. And we had a nice laugh about where technology is headed.
Yeah. In terms of technology being an extension of the body in a sense, what do you mean by that?
Well, so for instance, as I said, there are devices that will tell us our heart's speeding up, or that,
Oh, right. Yes.
Us to take a break. That exists. But also, as we are in the pandemic, and because that's where we are, you may share this other times, but right now you're sharing it because we're in the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so we've been asked to socially distance, right. And we're all doing much more technological communication. Mm-hmm. So as I'm doing that, I'm thinking, this is the experience of an eyeball. Like I'm in this room, in this space, and I'm looking through this.
Right.
And so that gave me a real interesting feeling of I'm kind of protected, and I'm only connecting with you through this.
Right.
And can I play with it expanding and it contracting? I was on a Zoom call that was about embodiment. And so there was 100 people from all over the globe. And one thing the leader did is invited everyone to lean forward.
Okay, yes.
It made such
we are very close right now.
Yeah, and so that thought about when an eye focuses in.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. I think when you let yourself notice what you notice in your body, what aspects feel like, well, there's something about this feels good.
Yeah, and it makes me think, some people, they sit back like this when they're on video conferencing, some people are up closer. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it makes me think, I wonder what's going on internally there that makes them, position themselves differently.
Yeah, and then I would love to share for clinicians, we can ask about those things. For instance, generally speaking, when anyone invites body awareness work, it's important that it be an invitation. And that's what gets into trauma-informed body work, because anytime we tell someone to do something, that could trigger trauma response.
Oh yeah, sure.
It could just trigger,
abuse is about control, right?
Yeah, don't you tell me what to do.
Yes.
So just in general, for any of the clinicians that want to invite body awareness exploration with their clients, the word invite is a good word. Mm-hmm. Like I invite. And then that invitation, you wait and you pause for either a, okay, or a, hmm. So for instance, like right now, Ray, I could invite you to notice all the places that your body touches potentially supportive surfaces.
Okay.
And I say potentially supportive because often there is a surface that gravity could sink us down into, but we are pulling up and away from it.
Right. Sure.
So you can notice the places that are kind of pulling up and away. If there are any places that are relaxing down.
Yeah.
And notice that I didn't say notice. I said you could notice.
Sure.
And that allows a lot more movement in the body than saying, okay, notice. Well,
Yeah.
notice this.
Yeah.
Because it can
I experienced the difference too.
Yeah. So as we talk about things that clinicians could do to invite awareness, presence, you know, in this time when you're doing work online, generally, let's paint the picture that it's going to be invite, could, might.
Sure. One thing that I think is really important right now about that is most people that used to do video sessions did it because they wanted to. That's what the clinicians and clients. Now people have to. So those that were kind of adverse to technology in the first place are having to do it. So maybe to normalize the experience and to help them get in touch with what that's like for them and, you know, process through it and become more comfortable, maybe bringing that up in the beginning, like, yeah.
And so 3 different things. One is each person on their own, like noting what they feel, in each therapist, and doing some journaling. You know, see if you can get in touch with, pull up what might be getting stirred up here. As you and I have talked about, there's so much rich material. You know, I'm supposed to connect with you, but I can't get it to connect. And I feel like the baby intronic still face experiment, you have just disappeared.
Right,
And
technology issues.
And I don't have this, I'm like a baby. I don't have the skills to come and find you.
Right, yeah.
And some of the techniques that you beautifully teach, like call, you know, so they have 2 ways of connecting with you.
Yeah, backup plan, yeah.
Help them notice the feelings. And it's a great opportunity to say, this is just like what it's like when you're a baby. And you don't speak the language.
Yeah, and some people might struggle connecting when they come to your office versus when they're online with you, they might have an easier time.
Yes. So the 3 things so the first thing is a therapist noticing what gets triggered in them. Like, what about your infant? You know, I don't like how it is and what's getting stirred up for you. And then the invitation to normalize that, talk about it with the client, and then actually using it to process. Like, for instance, here is this situation and we're missing what we had in the office. But I'm thinking well, I'm going to actually give it a specific example. I'm working with a client. They don't have good Wi-Fi. So it's freezing. And they're losing me, but then it comes back, but then they lose me, but then it comes back. And I said, because I know this client, this is just like it was with your mother. She would go in and out. You know, she would get distracted thinking about her alcoholic husband. And so she would be present with my client and then just disappear into the ethers and then get present and then disappear. And so it was a great opportunity for her to check in with her body. I'm touching here, check in with her body and feel what was, you know, like, I want to reach through the screen and grab you and shake you.
Yeah. And another thing I find really interesting is how people gravitate towards different ways of communicating electronically, like some with the phone. So, you know, I really wish, and this is more of a political, legislative type of thing, but I wish insurance companies would reimburse for phone sessions because they're just as effective as anything else. And you're like right here, you're like right next to them.
I will make a point that they have their own unique importance.
Yeah.
That take a little piece of this and give it to the legislative people that talk about licensure. So what we know about nervous system functioning, and I have my drawing, and of course it's in all my trainings of nervous system functioning.
Yep.
And it's so important to understand the new understanding of nervous system functioning, which is that this healthy, sober place is not here. It's not in between. It's a whole separate way of being. That when we feel threatened, we go into fight, flight. If we're trapped, we go into shutdown. When we come out of shutdown, we do not go over here. We go here first. And if we don't know that, we can get stuck bouncing back and forth between the two. To know there's going to be discomfort as we wake up to something new. And recognizing that and working ourselves through it, that's how we get over here. So you've got a client. This is very new. And so I want to just shut down. I'm not going to do this technology thing. But you, the therapist, midwifes the birthing of this uncomfortable, difficult to tolerate situation. I'm on the phone with you as well as here on the, we'll make it through this together. And that gets you over here. This anatomy that creates this space, one of the first places we experience this nerve that makes this possible is the ear. It's the middle ear muscle that flexes in order to listen to the human voice. So when I do my phone sessions, I talk about what's it like that all you have is my voice. It becomes possible to do hypnotic, lullaby kind of work. When I do that, I always tell my clients, I know from hypnosis training, that your body isn't going to take a suggestion if it doesn't want it. But this kind of therapy here, there's the potential for a suggestion. Like if you would like me to do a little hypnotic kind of voice and suggest that tonight when bedtime comes, you're going to find yourself breathing a little deeper. You're going to find yourself a little more able to settle into the bed because you've done this work in this session today.
Yeah, and one thing I find interesting about that is often my kids will talk to me more when they're on the phone than when we're like hanging out in the house. Sometimes they won't, sometimes they won't be interested at all in taking a phone call. But sometimes when they do, they'll like go on for a while.
Yeah.
It's like their private room. Maybe that's probably what it is. It's like, hey, we have this private space right here. Like I have dad's full attention.
And I'm guessing, there's that book, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and How to Listen.
Yeah, right. I know that book, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what reflective listening is, that counselors are invited into, is a reflecting in a way that says, tell me more, be here. So when all you have is this connection with them, my guess is it's also that your tone of voice is going, tell me.
Right. Yeah. Your voice is trying to draw it out, and
you're not so busy.
Work harder. Your voice has to work harder.
Yeah. Yes. Your voice is working harder to get that. Yeah.
Interesting. And I know that you have a really good workbook on online dating. And your workbook, it really is like, I call it a workbook. I guess that's I don't know what you call it. I call it a workbook because there's so much experiential things, almost every page, the person's invited to write out stuff, kind of like journaling, processing different topics in writing. So I was wondering if you had anything to say about like doing therapy through text-based, where people are sending secure messages back and forth, but they can't hear or see each other, and the benefits of that.
Yes. The the forming of language in development, the shifting into language is such a big developmental movement. So when we are bringing things into words and we're working to make sentences and communicate in words, written words, that is going to bring certain things forward. And the actual act of using our fingers to text and type, that also gets at a developmental dance that Judith Kestenberg and her colleagues that talk about infant rhythms call biting snapping. So when the baby feels safe enough to bite snap, ideally it's the beginning expression of preference. I like this, I don't like this thing, and this is what I'm feeling. And so I begin to do the words, to pull it together into a concept of words, and I begin to articulate those words, and they get articulated here and here and here. And so it can gather certain things and transmit them to the therapist in ways that bring that stuff up and out.
Yeah. And I guess as they're communicating, they're actually seeing it in front of them, which I think must have an impact. I know my mother, when in schoolwork, she would say, well, write it down, even though we didn't have to write it down. Write it down because then it becomes yours. You like take ownership of it, you integrate it.
Yeah.
I find that to be very much true. If I'm going to do a training or something, at least jotting down the bullet points, even though I'm never going to look at it. There's like an integration that happens there, whereas I'm creating it as I write it, and then I'm seeing it there before me. There's something about that that's different than not utilizing it.
Yes, the pulling together and make it yours. So I'm going to move so I can, and so this can happen.
Right, I know. You don't want to just sit here, right? Move the camera.
And because I do embodied work on camera, I'll often move it around so you can see me in different places. So I'm going to do a little dance for you of what you're describing about making it yours. So the baby has learned to sit by itself. Which is amazing. Because look, it frees my hands to play with things.
Right.
The baby starts to get hungry, and baby's favorite thing is bananas. Bananas are right up there on the counter next to the refrigerator. Mom's over here hanging curtains. You know, I'm making it mine. I can communicate. So mom says, "Oh, you hungry? Yay, it worked." She gets down, she goes over, she opens the refrigerator and she says, "Juice? No." So then what do I learn to do with this but this? And she says, banana. So this gathering together and communicating using hands digitally, everything's about digits now. And this is so much about infant grasping. What can I control? The baby monkey rides on the fur of mama. So I want to control this person who helps me, my therapist, and I'm gathering together and communicating, and I feel competent.
Right.
Or maybe it triggers something off and I fire a text back at my therapist.
Right. Yeah.
My digit, I want to add.
Yeah.
If the therapist understands what could get stirred up, rather than being shocked, wow, this client seemed to just fire off at me, they can be curious about that. How was it for you to send that last text?
Right.
There was something about the quality of the last text.
Rather than reacting to it, getting curious.
Yeah, because just like the mom. So let's say the baby, ideal mom, baby says,
Right,
and curious. Mom says apple. you know,
Right.
you might fire off something. And the mom is like, tell me, you know, oh, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you know, there's a theorist talked about the disinhibition effect when using technology. And so sometimes people, they won't respect or really be aware of the actual presence of the other person on the other end as much as they would if they're in the same room as each other. So like, you know, online bullying, people feel more free to just say mean things because they're not as in touch with the impact that it's going to have on someone. Or might be more revealing, more transparent because they're not so concerned or thinking about the impact of the other person.
Or they have a felt sense of safety.
Yeah.
And there's no smell. So so even if you fire off and get aggressive, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to break your device.
Right. Yeah.
In other words, I could do all kinds of things that set off people.
Right.
When I did this thing, it used to set off my parents, but look at you. You're harmless. You can't get to me.
Right.
So I'm suggesting that it is both true that it's the fact that they're, you know, not aware of the other person. I'm also thinking on some unconscious level, they're aware that you're trapped behind that screen.
Right.
And so you can't harm me for me revealing some of my vulnerable things that ultimately I wish my parent could have known about and helped me with. And
sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way of thinking about it. So what might be coming out that would seem out of the norm might be because they feel safe and a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I was getting my drawing because that's exactly what happens. The possum is in possum, playing possum. They sense safety. So they fire off the fight flight thinking they're going to be able to make it over the fence and then their body will return to social engagement system functioning. So they're actually feeling kind of hopeful if they're showing you this shit.
Right.
They feel hopeful that you can dance with them with this way that they are, whereas in the past, probably no one could tolerate this messiness, this staccato, this percussive, this messiness.
Yeah.
I'm letting you see it because you can't hurt me. I feel safe enough to reveal it because I have a little bit of hope that you can meet me here and dance differently with me than my parents, grandparents, community were able to do.
Right. Yeah. That's a great way of looking at it. I know when I do online trainings and meet with clients, I always have to kind of set some rules because they'll do things on video that they wouldn't do if they were in a conference room taking a training, right? Like interacting with other people in their room, right? Or taking phone calls, or, you know, not being dressed appropriately and stuff like that, because they just don't seem to care as much as if they were there on site in the same room as everybody. So it's like we've learned those social rules by showing up to things and getting in trouble when we're doing something else when we're not supposed to be. Whereas online, some people think they could get away with it and that it's not, you know, impacting others as much.
So I have an interesting take on that too. This is a fun conversation because you say one thing which is very true, and then I add a deeper, more body-based, potentially unconscious piece.
Yeah.
So,
which is what I love. I love having your perspective.
Yeah. So our world is shifting and technology is creating the opportunity to shift some ideas around privacy that actually used to be more about secrecy.
Right. Yeah. Great point.
That if this behavior is not tolerated by my family of origin, so I need to put it down here,
Uh-huh.
it could be private. Well, I just don't do that with these people.
Right.
So this is a lot of secrecy. This model really helps us understand addiction, that I'm over here, kind of stuck over here. I find some sort of substance that gives me short-term ease, but it's not going to last. And so I'm going to go dis-ease. And then I feel like I need to do it again. And the more I shame myself and it becomes secret, I try and hide these aspects of myself, I have a real hunger to let it out, and maybe unconsciously let it out in various ways that kind of say, F you to the system
Right.
that led to my being secret about this. And so that, social media and the things I want to get this out. I don't want it to be secret. It might be eventually just something I decide to keep private, but I don't want it to be secret anymore.
Yeah. 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 It's good to hold those perspectives, and there's probably more perspectives about this.
Oh yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, holding them in balance, or just holding them as options, things to consider.
Absolutely. And so if there's room for, when you give the rules, that, it's not a rule, it's an invitation. I invite you to be mindful of urges you have to do things online that you wouldn't do if you were sitting in an actual room with all of us doing a workshop.
Yeah.
Sometimes we feel frustrated with the system and want to kind of do a little FU to the system.
Right.
And so we might be tempted to go, oh, what the hell, just why not?
Yeah.
And if I invite you to, not you personally, but the leader can say, I invite you to be mindful of urges.
Yeah.
Behave this way, and to be curious about your urges. Like if you have the urge to do this meeting.
Sure. Rather than just shutting it down. Right. Great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you
because that's where growth and learning is going to happen, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
have great insight. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else you think we should touch upon, or this has been extremely helpful?
Let's see. So another cool thing that I've been experimenting with clients is that we are here together in the same general time.
Yeah.
That with Zoom, there's a little lag time.
I like the acknowledgement of that.
Yes. So it can feel a little off.
The concreteness of that, if that's a word, is very concrete. Like, hey, you and me, Dee, we are here together right now, same time, exactly. You're in your space, I'm in my space.
Yes.
Yeah, the here and now.
And ways that we can help ourselves feel that. Yeah. So it's part of the dance of co-regulation, that I make a reaction which causes you to react, which causes me to react, which causes you, which causes me. That's how it happens. But it can feel a little like that's missing because, again, I can't smell you, I can't touch you. So a way to help us feel that is things like what I've been doing with some clients is like, I will invite you to throw an imaginary ball of something my way.
Okay.
And then I'll practice looking like I'm catching it. So, because that ultimately is what we want to be doing, is you send something to me and I catch it.
Right.
And ultimately, if it's a therapy relationship, I only do it one way, because that's that reflective listening.
Yes.
Did I catch it? And I can say, did it feel like I caught it? Did it feel like I got it? Which is just like reflective listening. You know,
Sure. Yeah.
I caught you saying XYZ. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Then when I catch it, then often what I'll do is I'll say, oh, so glad you could pass that here. You know, I'm going to keep that and use that, particularly if you've got something you want to throw that you need to get out. So that same fingers that are typing, that are feeling like the
Right.
frustration, the things you can't stand about the fact that we have to do this online.
Yeah.
You know, can you feel that in your belly? And again, this is an invitation. I didn't say feel that in your belly. I said, can you? Is it there? Might you be able to? And if you feel it in your belly, this kind of, I don't like it that we can't meet in person.
Yeah.
Is it possible to let that rumble up into your arms and that you throw that? So like Ray, right now, I know you love this stuff, but
Yeah.
maybe
I have something frustrating that's been going on the past couple of days.
all right, shoot
I
it
can
here.
take it.
Shoot it here. And shoot it. Yeah. And then we could take that and we could crumble it all up.
Yes.
And we could give it back to you in terms that powerful energy can be in terms of creativity. Give it back to you. We'll transform it into some creative juice.
I like it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I could use that today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, if someone does it just kind of rotely and playfully, like we started doing some of this in a group, and people reported next week they hated it, which was great, because what they were saying is, this feels like such a sorry second best. And it is. And then we can get even more frustration riled up. Yeah. You know, I don't want to throw it to you this way. I want to take it and put it in your hand. You know, I want to smell you there. I want to be able to hug you at the end of the session. And so we can get at that and see how the actual separation is often just like what our clients experienced growing up. There are ways that the care person, the caregiver, wasn't available, I couldn't really touch that person. Yeah. I couldn't really affect that person.
Yeah, or not really feeling connected, you know, to the people in their life.
Yes.
I mean, there's always, I think throughout my entire life, the people that I love and care for and have great relationships with, there's always an extent, there's always like an extent of connection, and there's also an extent of not being connected. And there's always the desire to be more and more connected. Sometimes to be less connected, right? If I'm ticked off at the person. Yeah. But yeah, so there's always a bit of that sense of not being connected, not completely connected. Yeah. So it's great that you point that out. There was, you know, another thing about using technology is people have a term called walk and talk, right? So they can be going on a walk. I love going for walks. I go for a walk like 2-3 times a day, and I take my kids for walks and I talk to them while we're walking. And that's when I have all my phone calls, is when I'm walking. So there's something I really love about that. And then also being able to have conversations with a therapist in different environments, like your own environment is different than going to their environment.
Absolutely, totally.
Yeah.
I've done some amazing work using the phone, and whether people are walking and talking, and I'm asking, what are you feeling in your body? What are you noticing around you? Yeah. And in various places.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because I feel most connected. I'm a spiritual person, and you know, God, my connection to God is very important. And like, I feel connected when I'm walking, when I'm out in nature. That's when I feel most connected. So that's probably a reason why it's got to be part of it. Why I love having phone calls with my friends and family while I'm walking.
Yeah. So, and that brings in a couple of things. So when we do the playing around with responding on this, like you throwing and me catching, it feels like we're kind of crossing a barrier, a sort of time-space barrier.
Right.
We were talking today, I did an art of yoga class, and we were talking about shooting energy into the Zoom void.
Yeah.
And so the right brain, the right brain, my right, I'm mirroring you, the right brain is much more of a no time. It's like left brain is let's think it through. Right brain coordinates to say, but there's plenty of time.
Uh-huh.
And so often we get very left brainy, now. How do we bring in some right brain? There's time.
Mm-hmm.
Walking. When we do things that are contralateral, that brings in that right brain to balance the left brain. And walking, the movement of walking, the contralateral of walking came from monkey swinging from one vine to the next.
Uh-huh.
This move, this swing move, so when the arms can swing, it creates contralateral, and that brings left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain. So it helps people have a spiritual sense of safety that allows the diaphragm to pull down and the pelvic floor to go down too. So there's lots of room for the internal organs to expand in each breath.
Uh-huh.
Dorsal vagal shutdown shuts the body down below the diaphragm and shallows the breath. That's something we could talk about.
Uh-huh.
Because in this time where the virus is a virus that
affects the respiratory system, right?
it settles into the lower lung, which is going to create that feeling of shutdown. And so any dances that people, any energetic ways of being that people have put into shutdown, and that's what my article's about. That's the one about, I don't know if I sent you that one. There's one I wrote in Elephant Journal that's about breathing and coughing.
Oh, okay.
So if we're having trouble breathing, we could easily go into fight flight. And all the things, the angers, the frustrations that we've kept kind of locked up down here can come flying out.
Sure.
And to know that that's what's happening and work that through, go for a walk, coordinate right brain, left brain, that's really, really useful and helpful. Look at how many people are out walking.
Oh, yeah.
As a way to stay healthy, not just like immune system healthy, but also to process.
Yeah, a lot more people are walking now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a way to get out. And then being in their home location or other spaces. Any thoughts on that? The benefits of not being, restricted to, say, the therapist's office space.
Yes, I have. Again, mindfulness, curiosity, slowing down and being just very curious about things is the path, and very not telling people what to do. I mean, it is never useful to say, take a breath.
Sure.
Well, I don't want to say never, because there's always there's never and never and never and always. It's that simple. I mean, maybe they're in ICU.
Someone has to be shocked into it. Take a breath.
Exactly. If they're in ICU.
Who knows? Right.
Yeah, there are those times. But
sure.
If they're more here, and you tell them to do something, that could wake up the part of them that's like, stop telling me what to do.
Hell with you telling me what to do. Right.
Yeah. That could stir up that stuff. So first, why don't we just name that? So yes, I have a book that's about online dating, and that comes from work with couples and the realization that we can do couples work in dating. Just we can do couples work with that person we emailed with. We can do couples work because couples work is about getting better at being a partner.
Right.
That's all each person can control anyway. So you can work on your ability to be a better partner with each encounter with anyone you're dating. So here you are in a romantic relationship, and we know, us counselors know, that you're going to bring to your partner any unfinished dances from childhood.
Mhm.
If when you went, you know, mom never even looked from the curtains,
Right.
then you've got stuff that's going to get triggered by this partner, and you're going to want to target that on them, especially if you're all locked in one location.
Right.
So here's an exercise I invite couples, romantic couples, to do during this time of being isolated with each other. I invite people to sit side by side. So we're already taking that targeting the other person away by sitting side by side. Sit side by side on a sofa. Yeah. And each of you take a turn saying, "You are on my side."
You are on my side. Yeah.
What's it like to say those words? Look at that smile.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
We're not alone. We're not alone. We are here together, right?
Ultimately,
We're gonna be together. Yeah.
ultimately, you're on my side.
Yeah.
And then I invite each person to go find a wall or a door. So now then you take this and go find a wall or a door and push into it. And let yourself feel, first of all, there are things I would like to change. I would like to change some things. And because I don't like things and I would like to change some things, I can feel very vulnerable. So I can take my wish to change things, push it into a surface that can handle that. And then I can feel, hey, I can feel I'm pretty strong. I mean, look at me pushing into the ground. Look at me push, you know, I'm strong. Then, now we face the partner. You put your hands up like you're pushing the wall, and you say one at a time to your partner, there are things I'd like to change. And I cannot change you. You know, that's your job. That's you and your dance, your spiritual path, your dance with whatever breath and gravity. You know, you have a dance of your own with the things you'd like to change. I cannot change you. And then, but what can I change? I can change me. And then you bring some love towards yourself. You sit back side by side, and each person is being with themselves. They've been with themselves in their frustration. They now bring some comfort to themselves. Just hold your head up for a minute, or find a sofa you can lean back into. Hold your heart. It is not that it is not okay to touch our faces. It is that we are to wash our hands before we touch our faces and after we touch our faces. We need to be touching our faces when we've washed our hands first. And when we choose to wash our hands afterwards, when we do that, we need to be doing that. But we need to we need to be touching our faces, just we need to look at when and how.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the video and phone and text creates a lot of opportunities.
Yes, yes.
And being on site, same room, creates a lot of opportunities.
Yes.
So, so for, you know, as you watch this, you'll find Dee Wagner's information here on the article, where to find her if you need any help, or if you know of anyone that needs help. And Dee Wagner's licensed in Georgia, right? You're not licensed in other states?
I am not licensed in other states. However, I do educational work in other states,
Sure.
teaching, especially training and teaching the nervous system science, the developmental dances.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah, excellent. And she has great articles. So certainly follow her. Yeah, so thanks a lot, Dee. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ray. Always great to discuss things with you.
Yeah, same here. It's been too long, so I'm glad we were able to connect.
Me too.
Yep.